and this is what these fans have been waiting for.
Many wrestlers get so popular from what they're doing that they gain celebrity status. One of these celebrity wrestlers is Tyson Smith, known more popularly as his stage name, Kenny Omega. The Canadian-born professional wrestler is known for his interesting personality and incredible skills in the ring. In this video, we'll be talking about things you didn't know about Kenny Omega. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's start with number 1, how he was discovered. Kenny came from humble beginnings. Born in Winnipeg, Canada, he played ice hockey as a goalie growing up, but became interested in wrestling from a young age. Watching WWE on TV, which soon became his favorite program, he worked in an IGA supermarket when he was 16 years old, where he met and got discovered by TRCW promoter Bobby J, who took him on. From there, he began training under TRCW, and the rest is history. Now on to number 2. Kenny Omega loves anime. Kenny has mentioned that he's a huge fan of anime and watches it right before exercise, especially sports anime, because he feels like it energizes his workout. In an interview with Crunchyroll, a famous anime website and streaming service, he says his first anime was Astro Boy, and he's loved all anime ever since. His favorite villain is Mitosuju from Yowamushi Pedal, who he has claimed to be the sports equivalent of Thanos. Very interesting. The pro wrestler has also said that he prefers hand-drawn anime to CGI-drawn anime, as the artwork is better for the screen. Anime fans out there, what do you think? Let's move on to number 3. He doesn't consider himself a tough guy. In an interview with Alicia Atout in 2017, Kenny said that he's not what one would typically call a tough guy, so he's always careful about what risks he takes. He's highly skilled and well-trained, but has still had to tone down some moves as he got older, which is understandable. Kenny says that he has replaced a lot of his more difficult moves with comic flair as he has gotten older and competed. Better safe than sorry. He also says his most dangerous move was done in 2012 Budokan, where he performed a Frankensteiner move from the top rope to the floor and described it as the most shocking fall he's ever had to absorb. It definitely sounds like it. Now for number 4. His love for innovation. Kenny Omega is known for his innovation in wrestling and creating matches much different to the ones in WWE. For example, in one of his matches, he wrestled a 9-year-old girl, which was skillfully handled by both Kenny Omega and the 9-year-old girl, Hiraku. Here's another innovative one. When wrestling with DDT, he actually wrestled a blow-up doll. Kenny stated that he actually tried to make it look like the doll had won, stating, "Yes, this thing is defending itself. It's attacking. It has a chance of winning. We make people feel sorry for this thing and make people feel as though it's a human being putting its life on the line for the entertainment of the fans." So Kenny Omega is not only talented in the art of pro wrestling, but also the art of telling a story and putting on a show. Let's move on to number 5. He chose one of his looks as the Cleaner character based on video game and movie characters. Kenny Omega's The Cleaner character has dark hair, sunglasses, and a villainous attitude, and his influences were from characters from pop culture, Wexler and Cobra. For those of you who play video games, you'll know who Wexler is. For those who don't, he's the dark and evil villain behind the Resident Evil franchise. As for Cobra, Cobra is a film from the 1980s starring Sylvester Stallone as a cop with an axe to grind, excelling in skills but always held back by his jealous and stingy boss. Both these characters influenced Omega's character, the Cleaner, and show how he takes influences from pop culture to elevate his persona and stage presence. Now for number 6. He supports other wrestlers outside the ring. Kenny is a strong believer that it is important to respect and support his fellow wrestlers, and hugely supports accomplishments they do outside the ring. In an interview in 2017 with Alicia Atout, he says he's very interested in films that fellow wrestler The Rock has appeared in, as well as listening to the music that his friends and other fellow wrestler Christ Jericho produces. In the interview, he mentions Fizzy, Jericho's heavy metal band, and mentions that his favorite song of theirs is their hit, Judas. Support is super important. Let's move on to number 7. Kenny Omega is a Trekkie. Sci-fi fans rejoice. Kenny considers himself a huge fan of Star Trek and says he found the franchise very inspirational to his career as a wrestler in a 2018 interview. This is another example of how he likes to use popular culture and things he loves to influence his career and make his stage performance even more unique and influential. He says that Star Trek made him who he is to some degree. Now for number 8. He spent a brief amount of time in the WWE WWE. Kenny Omega was part of WWE for a very short time, and you may be wondering why. Early on in his career, Kenny Omega spent some time in Deep South, where WWE's potential wrestlers were evaluated and coached by Bill DeMott. It was because of this time in WWE that he almost gave up wrestling for a job at the airport. He said he had a difficult time in WWE with all the cliques and gossip, and considers himself a more independent fighter. He has since turned down 5 WWE contracts, 1 in 2014, 3 in 2015, and 1 in early 2019. He instead works as an indie wrestler before signing with All Elite Wrestling. Let's move on to number 9. AJ Styles brought Kenny back into wrestling. After his unfavorable experience with backstage politics and gossips in Deep South in WWE, Kenny was close to giving up wrestling and moving away from that entire world completely, and we can't blame him. Anyone would feel uninspired after a rough time. However, thanks to a wrestling match with AJ Styles, he realized that not all wrestling and wrestlers were the same. One day, a promoter booked him for a final match against AJ Styles, and after that match, he felt his love for wrestling open up once again. So we have AJ Styles to thank for Kenny Omega still wrestling. Now for number 10. Having freedom to craft his own style is the most valuable thing for him. Kenny Omega is a very individual guy in all he does, especially his style of wrestling. Growing up, he knew a lot of wrestling fans considered WWE to be the only part of wrestling. But Kenny wanted to find his own place in the business, crafting his own style away from the huge popularity of WWE, and that's made him who he is today. When asked why he wasn't a member of one of the world's most predominant wrestling organizations, he replied, "I am sort of very much a part of representing an alternative. If my motivation was money, I would already be in the WWE." This just shows that his main goal is to be able to craft his own style and have control over it, and that's why he is such a unique wrestler with an incredible persona. Let's move on to number 11. His first gimmick. Kenny Omega started wrestling when he was young and was only 16 when he began his career as a pro wrestler. Working for TRCW, in fact, his wrestling name Omega is based on the Final Fantasy villain, also called Omega. As a gimmick, he chose to be an otaku gamer. In 2019 interview with Razor, Kenny Omega was being interviewed in an arcade and discussed how games inspire him in his career as a wrestler. His love for gaming began early on in his life, and he's still taking inspiration from video games in his career. Now for number 12. He went to Japan because of Kota Ibushi. Omega was wrestling in the United States and Canada quite successfully. He decided to go to Japan, which ultimately became a great decision in his career. The reason he decided to go was because of Japanese wrestler Kota Ibushi, whom he saw videos of on YouTube. He sent in a tape of his wrestling to DDT Pro Wrestling and a promo challenging Ibushi, and they brought him in for a match. This became the start of a long-term relationship with DDT from 2008 to 2014, and New Japan Wrestling from 2010 to 2019. Omega and Ibushi also became close friends during this time and even created a tag team together, known as the Golden Lovers. And now, for number 13, he has Japanese citizenship. This doesn't come as a surprise. Seeing his connections to Japan and his relationships with wrestling companies there, Kenny Omega became a massive star in Japan and became more based there than in the United States. He loved Japan so much that he got his citizenship there as well and learned the language. So, Omega is also fluent in Japanese. He is a major star to Japanese fans and ended up winning the IWGP Junior title twice, the heavyweight title once, the IC title once, US title once, and 3 different tag titles. He also held 9 titles in DDT Pro Wrestling. That's a lot of titles. On to number 14. Kenny Omega is straight edge. Like CM Punk, Kenny Omega is straight edge. That means no drinking, no smoking, no drugs. This isn't really a surprise in today's world of wrestling, as most pro wrestlers want to live the healthiest lifestyle possible so they can perform the best during matches and be able to do all the training they need to do to stay strong. Definitely a good idea with all the training and matches they have to do and the strain it puts on their bodies. And finally, number 15. He is now co-vice president of AEW Wrestling. From working in the supermarket to almost wanting to quit wrestling for good, Kenny Omega's career has definitely paid off now. In 2019, he left Japan and returned to North America, where he signed a 4-year contract and took on the role of co-vice president of All Elite Wrestling. Wrestling, alongside the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes. Omega made his ring debut as a member of AEW at the AEW Double or Nothing on May 25, 2019, in a one-on-one match with Chris Jericho. He also currently works as an executive at The Office, helping to bring in new talent. This concludes this video of things you didn't know about Kenny Omega. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel. And please turn on post notifications if you want to be notified when the next video is out. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.